Hello, everyone. I welcome you to the third session of this very exclusive series, which is based entirely on the Hindu editorials. Now, if you remember, in the first two sessions, we discussed main idea, title, and inferential questions. Now, this is going to be a combo session of the two. Again, you're going to see two editorials taken specifically from the Hindu editorials, and we are going to basically solve some questions based on primary purpose or main idea and also inference. If you remember, inference is something which is indirectly implied, and main idea is something that you need to read the entire passage thoroughly first in order to get better at, right? So let's get started with the first passage. Again, I would want you guys to click a picture of this so that you can read this article at your own pace later. And this is the second slide. I hope everybody is done clicking pictures or taking a screenshot, whatever is comfortable for you. Now let's get started with the essence of the passage. Now, the passage primarily talks about Sumana Roy. Sumana Roy is an associate professor. We get to know that she's an associate professor at Ashoka University. And she explores how six Bengali intellectuals, that too of the 20th century, developed what she calls plant poetics. Okay, now the thing is, human beings generally are anthropocentric. What does that mean? यहाँ पे anthropocentric एक word use हुआ है, which basically means we feel that everything has been created for us and we are the ultimate consumers and everything is for our own selfish purposes. But the thing is, this plant poetics is a new way of thinking which challenges the anthropocentric point of view. Okay, now, instead of looking at plants as objects, these thinkers had, deep personal relationships with plant life. And that is what has been exhibited in this particular passage. Now, she primarily talks about six leading figures and their relationship with plants. So the first one is Jagdish Chandra Bose. आप लोगों ने इनका नाम सुना ही होगा. A scientist who basically wanted plants to be seen as equal living beings, and he also called them citizens of the country of the living. That means plants are very much alive and they should be treated as such, right? The second leading figure is Rabindranath Tagore. Again, we all are well aware who Rabindranath Tagore is, a poet, educator, somebody who created an environment of forest inspired, आप बोल सकते हो, learning at Shanti Niketan Institute. Shanti Niketan is basically built by him only, and वहाँ पे उन्होंने nature को blend किया education के साथ, right? Then we also get to know the next figure who is Vibhuti भूषण बंद्योपाध्याय. और इनका जो contribution था वो ये था कि first of all he was a novelist who basically admitted that he was complicit in colonizing forest. Colonizing forest का मतलब है where human intervention has taken place, and he has actually turned that land into agriculture, obviously for personal benefits and profits. Then there is Jibanand Das, जिनके बारे में बात होती है, who is again a poet who kind of documented the botanical history of provincial Bengal through his writings. और फिर उसके बाद बात होती है शक्ति चट्टोपाध्याय जी की, जो again poet थे who came from rural upbringing, and he lived with his grandfather. That's what we get to know. And he was both a teacher as well as a homeopath, and it actually gave him आप बोल सकते हो, a deep love for country life as well as plants. And the last character is Satyajit Ray. Satyajit Ray, very famous filmmaker from the city, who, despite his, urban background, often included botanist characters in his stories. And again, he also inspired. He was very much inspired by his tree-filled childhood vacations in Darbhanga. तो ये सारी चीजें हमें फर्स्ट पैराग्राफ से पता चलती है, फर्स्ट एंड सेकंड पैराग्राफ से. And then we also get to know how Roy also includes one of her personal characters in the story. And as you get to see, just a second. So, Roy ends this book with a chapter on Maya Mashi. ठीक है, माया माशी जो है वो एक डोमेस्टिक वर्कर है जो उनके घर में काम करती है. And she knew her personally. And this final chapter, although seems a bit disconnected from the rest of the book, because obviously we are talking about 6 leading characters of history, and this kind of looks like an attempt to fill in some of the gaps in her earlier analysis. ऐसा होता है ना कि when we are only picking up the elite, okay, we want somebody who comes from आप बोल सकते हो lower social strata, so that their opinions can also be heard. So it's very clear that the key themes of this particular book is, first of all, these thinkers weren't really environmentalists, but they definitely shared a very close and environmental connection to the plant life, and seeing it as something to live alongside. So they never marginalized plants, they never treated them as non-alive creatures, and they did not dominate on the plant side of the आप बोल सकते हो environment. Then many of them had links to Brahmo Samaj. ये भी एक reason हो सकता है, which is a reformist religious movement. And sorry, this kind of brought Upanishadic का मतलब होता है something which is based on Upanishads, ancient Hindu philosophical texts, right? And ideas into their relationship with nature. तो probably ये लोग जो थे, because they were so closely attached to these movements, something inside them might have changed, and they might have realized the importance of nature and preserving it and treating it as equals, right? And as you also get to know in the last paragraph, we get to see that writers like Chattopadhyay, Bandyopadhyay also came from Brahmin or upper caste backgrounds, and were shaped by Sanskrit, classical literature. तो उसमें भी आपको अच्छा खासा knowledge मिल जाता है about how to treat, fellow, your fellow humans, fellow alive creatures. So if we talk about the critiques of the book first of all avoids technical academic jargon. What does that mean? Technical academic jargon का मतलब होता है कि something which only and only is related to a particular field, and only the people of the field will be able to understand. Jargon का मतलब ही technical language होता है. And as you can see, the book avoids technical academic jargon and is written for an academic audience. ठीक है, but the writing is more descriptive than analytical. तो ऐसा है कि although academic circle के लोगों के लिए लिखी गई, but still आप एक चीज देख सकते हो कि it can be understood by the normal audience as well. Then Roy often uses, quotes from her sources, which can interrupt the narrative flow. तो बीच बीच में आपको ऐसा लगेगा कि there is an interruption. ऐसा नहीं लगेगा कि it's a free flowing text. And she does not really explore how, caste, class privilege actually affects these thinkers, plant-centered philosophies. तो इस चीज के बारे में she did not really throw much light. Then she also talks about Mahashweta Devi, although very briefly. तो यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ relegated to brief mention, which is basically आप बोल सकते हो कि उनका बस एक बार मेंशन होता है उनके बारे में. although she has been a very popular figure, she did not really talk about her in detail, which kind of does not sit well with many readers. And a major writer activist Mahashweta Devi, अगर आप लोगों ने भी हिंदी में उनके stories पढ़ी होंगी, तो I think you guys might be aware. So she was a major writer activist, and she was known for her work for the marginalized communities. And that's the reason why people feel that why she hasn't been mentioned in great detail in this book. So अगर हम देखें यहाँ पे कि कुछ कुछ चीजें जो हैं वो फ्लॉज तो हैं इस बुक में. ओवरऑल अगर हम इस बुक को देखें तो this definitely contributes to plant humanities. This definitely creates an awareness, a sense of awareness among people. And we also get to know that something which moves past her own autobiographical writing to engage the scholarly thought as well. And she has successfully आप बोल सकते हो brought together these six leading figures and as companions, and how they treat plants as companions, equals, and something that holds a lot of meaning. But again, the book kind of falls short in areas like caste analysis, in giving space to other important figures like Mahashweta Devi. So I would say overall, अगर 80% पॉजिटिव है तो 20% उसमें थोड़े से फ्लॉज भी है, and that is what the passage is all about. Now let's see the question. What was the primary purpose? So primary purpose, we have already dealt with this. Primary focus of Roy's book according to the passage. That means they are asking us the central idea why this entire passage has been written. Documenting professional environmentalist. The word professional environmentalist means that these six leading figures, they used to be professional environmentalists, whereas the book very clearly states that they were not professionals, right? So this is a contradictory option. Contradicts the premise of the passage. Analyzing how certain Bengali intellectuals developed intimate, non anthropocentric relationships with plant life. Yes, 100%. This should be our answer because that's exactly what has happened in the book. She has analyzed these Bengali intellectuals' interaction with plants, and also how their view is non-anthropocentric. That means these six intellectuals do not really consider human beings as the ultimate, consumer, as the ultimate, आप बोल सकते हो, user of the resources around us. So this looks like the correct answer. Criticizing the destruction of forests by colonial agricultural practices. Again, criticizing the destruction of forest is not something which can be considered as the main focus of the passage, right? Although the thing is, while Bandyopadhyay does reflect and he does, criticize, क्योंकि he does not criticize, but he himself has colonized the forest. But that wasn't the primary aim of the passage. That isn't the reason why the writer has written it. तो बंद्योपाध्याय को mention किया गया है, but again, it is a side detail, not the main idea. Establishing plant humanities as a legitimate academic discipline. Now, the thing is, the reason why she wrote this book is because probably she wanted to create that sense of responsibility, awareness, but that wasn't really her aim to, actually, she wanted to contribute in the field of plant humanities for sure, but the thing is, she did not really was trying to make it into a legitimate academic discipline. That means a subject that one can study. So that is something which hasn't been mentioned. Her intention wasn't really to make it into an academic discipline. So no, this is a detail which is not mentioned. Question number 5. So by the way, question number 1, the correct answer is option B. Question number 2. The author's observation about Roy's treatment of Maya Mashi suggests what about the book structure? देखो, एक चीज बहुत क्लियर है कि पैसेज में एक चीज बताई गई है कि माया माशी का जो चैप्टर है वो थोड़ा सा डिस्कनेक्टेड है, एंड इट सीम्स टू एड्रेस द गैप्स in earlier discussions. Now, the probable reason why she might have mentioned Maya Mashi to begin with is to fill a void. ठीक है, fill the emptiness. क्योंकि क्या होता है, perhaps to add a non-elite, non-Brahmin voice. ठीक है, somebody who is not sitting in the intellectual circles, because she has focused heavily on the upper caste Brahmo-linked intellectuals. But the thing is, यहाँ पे माया माशी जो है वो इन सारी ही क्लासेस से दूर है, एंड स्टिल उनका जो व्यू पॉइंट है उसको कंसिडर किया गया है. सो मे बी दैट कुड बी हर रीजन. सो domestic workers deserve equal recognition with famous intellectuals in academic discourse. Now, in principle, I think this is a very true statement. But the thing is, the passage does not really say that Roy's purpose for the inclusion of Maya Mashi was to actually, assert the fact that, आप बोल सकते हो that Maya Mashi is on the same similar level of the intellectuals. तो ये passage में कहीं भी assert नहीं होता है. तो ये on paper बिल्कुल सही है, but the thing is the passage does not really make it into a legit point, and that's the reason it will be eliminated. When we look at option B, the inclusion appears intended to address social and intellectual gaps in the main analysis. Exactly. If you look at the part where Maya Mashi has been mentioned, somewhat disconnected, seemingly addressing gaps in earlier discussions, this is exactly from where we can derive that, isn't it? So this is the line from where you can derive that. Then, rural perspectives are more valuable than urban intellectual traditions. See, the reason why Sumana Roy added Maya Mashi is so that she can, bear the thoughts equally. I'm sorry. Just a second. Sorry. Yeah. So rural perspectives are more valuable. ऐसा तो कहीं पे भी नहीं बोला गया है कि दिस पर्सपेक्टिव होल्ड्स मोर वैल्यू देन द अदर वन. अगर हम देखें इस पूरे पैसेज में तो एक चीज है कि बोथ द रूरल एज वेल एज अर्बन पर्सपेक्टिव्स हैव बीन गिवन इक्वल वैल्यू, एंड दैट्स द रीजन this comparison hasn't been made. Personal relationships enhance scholarly objectivity. The passage actually implies quite the opposite. क्योंकि जो personal connection था माया माशी के साथ, वही चैप्टर जो था वो बहुत ही डिस्कनेक्टेड था. सो वैसे देखा जाए तो जो पर्सनल कनेक्शन था वो तो बहुत ही डीपली इन डिटेल लिखा जाना चाहिए था, but that did not really happen and it did not enhance the overall experience of reading that book. So this is opposite of what is stated in the passage. Now, moving to the next passage. The next passage is actually based on this historical fort. I don't know whether you guys have heard of it. It's Jinji Fort. I would want you to click a picture of this. I hope you are done clicking the picture. Taking you to the next slide. Now, this is a very factual Hindu editorial. Factual as in it has loads and loads of facts. It has loads and loads of information. We can call this passage an informative text. Yeah, let's get started. Now, when we talk about the Jinji Fort, I'm not really sure whether that is how it's pronounced. So, Jinji Fort की अगर हम बात करते हैं, recently it was named a UNESCO heritage site as part of the mighty Maratha landscape, and it has become a really popular tourist destination also. ठीक है, ये हमें फर्स्ट पैराग्राफ से पता चलता है, और बहुत सारी इन्फॉर्मेशन और भी दी हुई है. जैसे कि अगर हम देखें कि वीकेंड टूरिस्ट जो है, वीकेंड विजिटर्स जो है, इट हैज नाउ रीच्ड लाइक 1700, जो कि पहले 600 to 700 लोग आया करते थे, तो नाउ इट हैज इंक्रीज टू 1700, एंड इट इज लोकेटेड 160 किलोमीटर फ्रॉम चेन्नई इन दिस आई थिंक विलुपुरम district, right? And the fort kind of sits on the three hills, Rajagiri, Krishnagiri, and Chandragiri, and it forms a striking triangular shape. Okay, maybe that might have added to the popularity. Now, this particular part has a long multi-ruler history. That means बहुत सारे लोगों ने इस जगह को rule किया. Now, the fort was first of all built in the 12th century. Citadel का मतलब होता है a fort which is built on a higher ground to provide safety from the enemies. तो यहाँ पे भी हमें देखने को मिलता है कि this was built in the 12th century by Anand Kon of the Kunar community, and over 800 years it passed through the hands of various rulers. तो अभी इसे एक मल्टी रूलर डायनेस्टी की तरह देखा जा रहा है. एंड अगर हम बात करें यूनेस्को हाईलाइट्स की, तो यूनेस्को जो है वो मराठा हेरिटेज को इसमें हाईलाइट करता भी है. एंड अगर आप बात करें जिंजीस पास्ट की, इट इंक्लूड्स द नायक्स, मुगल्स, कार्नेटिक नवाब्स, फ्रेंच, इवन द ब्रिटिशर्स. तो ये इतने सारे रूलर्स यहाँ पे आके रूल कर चुके हैं. ठीक है, दैट्स व्हाट यू गेट टू नो फ्रॉम द सेकेंड पैराग्राफ, एज यू कैन सी. देन वी गेट टू सी दैट ये जो हमारा नायक्स है ऑफ जिंजी, They originally were chieftains under the Vijayanagar Empire. Vijayanagar Empire is basically a South Indian empire, right? And they greatly expanded the fort around, I think, 1240 CE. ऐसा ही कुछ दिया हुआ है यहाँ पे. Yeah, exactly. I hope you can see it. And उन्होंने expand किया इस fort को especially on Rajagiri Hill ड्यूरिंग अ टाइम ऑफ पीस, जब सब कुछ पीसफुली चल रहा था. एंड उन्होंने ही बहुत सारे ग्रैंड स्ट्रक्चर्स भी इस पर्टिकुलर फोर्ट में ऐड किए. सो इफ यू लुक एट द फोर्ट, इट इज अ ब्लेंड ऑफ आर्किटेक्चरल स्टाइल्स, मतलब कि बहुत ही सुंदर तरीके से बनाया गया है. तो पहली बात तो यहाँ पे बहुत सारे कल्चर्स का मिक्सचर भी देखने को मिलेगा आपको. जैसे कल्याण महल है यहाँ पे, इन विजयनगर स्टाइल में बनाया गया है. इट हैड बेदिंग टैंक्स फॉर रॉयल विमेन. देन फिर है, आई थिंक इन लोगों ने बात की है शायद मुगल इन्फ्लुएंसेस की. तो मुगल इन्फ्लुएंसेस में भी आप देखते हो कि इट अपीयर्स इन इंडो इस्लामिक डोम्स, आर्चवेज एंड ट्रेजरीज. फिर उसके बाद लेटर रूलर्स जो थे उन्होंने मॉस्क्स ऐड किए, टेम्पल्स ऐड किए, ग्रैनरीज वेयर द ग्रेन्स आर स्टोर्ड, जिम्स एंड इवन सीक्रेट टनल्स. तो ये आप बोल सकते हो डिफरेंट रूलर्स, आप बोल सकते हो एडेड देयर ओन डिफरेंट यूनिक स्टाइल टू दिस फोर्ट. And archaeologists have also found a granite throne here. They have also found water systems using natural springs, and rooms that might have either been, stables or harems. Historians kind of still debate over this. So archaeologists को भी अच्छा खासा content मिला है. And when we talk about yeah, so when we talk about climbing the 800-foot Rajgiri hill, it is actually a physically demanding task. And आज के जो क्लाइंबर्स होते हैं, दे ऑफन फेस मिस्चीवस मंकीज. तो दैट मीन्स बहुत सारे इंटरप्शंस होते हैं जब आप वॉक कर रहे हो इस पूरे फोर्ट तक पहुंचने के लिए, बिकॉज द मंकीज ऑब्वियसली स्नैच योर स्नैक्स एंड रिप्लेसिंग एंशियंट सोल्जर्स वन स्टेशन देयर. तो पहले एंशियंट सोल्जर्स को वहीं पे स्टेशन किया जाता था, आज उसी का रोल ये मंकीज निभा रहे हैं. एंड ऑब्वियसली मॉडर्न क्यूरोसिटी और जो ट्रेजर हंट्स है, ये सब चीजें भी बहुत होती थी यहाँ पे. तो जैसे कि सम यंग विजिटर्स, दे यूज्ड टू कम हियर होपिंग टू फाइंड ट्रेजर. ऐसे फोर्ट्स में ये सारी चीजें एक बहुत ही यूजुअल अकरेंस रहती है, वेयर पीपल कम, as you can see, to find some treasure inspired by, YouTube videos. For example, there was this one person, 9-year old. So this guy, who was a 9-year-old little boy, Nitin, and a 14-year-old Madhan, they both arrived with dreams of discovering hidden treasures here. And then we also talk about the Maratha legacy. So Jinji's connection with Marathas began in 1677. Kafi purana connection hai, when Chhatrapati Shivaji, captured the fort, and he also named it the Troy of the East. क्योंकि ट्रॉय ऑफ द वेस्ट तो ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्ट करता है, फॉर द सिंपल रीजन बिकॉज इट हैड स्ट्रॉन्ग डिफेंसेस. एंड द मराठास, दे यूज्ड टू यूज सम रियली क्लेवर टैक्टिक्स लाइक ड्रॉब्रिजेस. एंड ड्रॉब्रिजेस जो है विच बेसिकली कॉजेज द एनिमीज टू फॉल टू देयर डेथ्स. ठीक है, तो बहुत स्मार्ट हुआ करते थे ये लोग, इसी फोर्ट के थ्रू ये क्लेवर टैक्टिक्स वो इम्प्लीमेंट किया करते थे. एंड एज यू कैन सी लेटर, the Mughals also briefly recaptured the fort under Aurangzeb's generals, but फिर आए Swaroop Singh. But it again prospered, it thrived under the rule of Mr. Swaroop Singh. ठीक है, and his son Raja Tej Singh. फिर उसके बाद तेज सिंह जो थे, उनकी एक बहुत ही heroic death हुई in the year 1714, and it was so memorable that it even inspired Tamil ballads. और इस फोर्ट में एक टाइमलेस अपील है बेसिकली, क्योंकि यहाँ पे इतना, मतलब इट इज सो रिच इन हिस्ट्री दैट whenever you go, you always learn something new. So eventually, the French and British fought for control, जो कि usually होता ही था, bringing in the modern weaponry. And today, standing between the Bell Tower and the Rangannath Tower, visitors kind of still imagine these historical battles. Even as temple processions go on below. Temple processions का मतलब होता है जब पूजा होने वाली रहती है, तो आप एक लाइन में आप वहां तक जाते हो, राइट? तो मॉडर्न विजिटर्स में अगर हम देखें तो आजकल कॉलेज स्टूडेंट्स जो प्रॉबेबली जिनका सब्जेक्ट हिस्ट्री हो, हु आर मेजरिंग इन हिस्ट्री, या somebody who is just seeking a break from studies, they kind of अब बोल सकते हो वो इस जगह को विजिट करते हैं. एंड दीज पीपल काइंड ऑफ रिजेंबल द एंशियंट पीपल हु वंस यूज्ड टू क्लाइंब दीज हिल्स. एंड द ओनली डिफरेंस इज, एज यू कैन सी, दैट एंशियंट विजिटर्स carried the fate of empires because they had a purpose. They wanted to protect it. While today's youth just carry backpacks and snacks, and also let's not forget cellular phones, right? So linking past as well as present in a powerful way because तब भी youth interested था, आज भी youth interested है इस particular fort में. That is what the story is of Jinji Fort, right? Now let's see question number 3. So question number 3 यहाँ पे पूछा गया है again, what is the primary focus of the passage about Jinji Fort? So if you look at option A, UNESCO's recent recognition boosting tourism significantly. बात ये है कि although it has been mentioned at the start, but this is just an introductory detail. पूरा passage क्या इसी को ही surround करता है कि कैसे tourism बढ़ा? It doesn't, right? So इसीलिए option A is just a supporting detail and introductory detail. Let's also talk about option D. Modern conservation efforts by archaeological departments. Passage में archaeological findings की बात हुई है, ठीक है? But it does not say anything about ongoing conservation practices. So this is something which is not mentioned. That's why eliminated. Architectural differences between various ruling periods. क्या ये passage सिर्फ इसलिए लिखा गया था to make us understand the different rulers and how they have added different architectural detail? Now this was only taken up in one of the paragraphs, but the only to tell us about the beauty of this fort. But that wasn't the main idea of the passage, right? So again, a supporting detail. The fort's rich multi-dynasty history and current visitor experience. This kind of fits the bill because यहाँ पे historical journey की भी बात हुई है कि yes, it did have a multi-dynasty history. इसकी तो बात हुई थी. उसके साथ साथ एक modern detail भी add की हुई है कि आज के जो visitors हैं उनमें क्या difference है from the ancient visitors. तो ये जो चीज़ है वो properly capture हुई है in option B. That makes option B the perfect choice. Then, the author's comparison between ancient and modern loafers. ठीक है, loafers का मतलब होता है जो ऐसे ही घूमने आते हैं, ठीक है, without any purpose. जो college students हैं उनको basically बोला गया है. Suggest what about the fort's enduring appeal? Educational tourism has replaced recreational visits over time. ये तो बिल्कुल ही उल्टी बात हुई है क्योंकि पैसेज में तो ये बोला गया है कि द स्टूडेंट्स वांट टू एस्केप their academic stress and that's the reason they come here for recreational purposes. तो ये तो बिल्कुल भी गलत बात है. Opposite is stated in the passage. बच्चे तो इसलिए जा रहे हैं so that they can enjoy there, not to study, right? Then the fort attracts similar types of visitors across centuries. ये तो बात हुई थी कि historical visitors जो थे who once climbed these hills, although they had heavier responsibilities, आज के जो reasons हैं वो थोड़े से different हैं. But the thing is, the fort still holds that enduring appeal, enduring value, and that's the reason people still want to visit it. So B kind of looks like the right choice, but let's wait. Option C. Modern visitors lack the serious purpose of historical climbers. So this is partially true, but where it is mentioned in the passage, it hasn't been judgmental. ये वाला जो point है, ये बहुत ही judgmental लग रहा है. Whereas the passage, when it mentions this, they are non-judgmental. And that's the reason this cannot be the answer. यहाँ पे उन लोगों को एक तरीके से डिसरिगार्ड कर दिया है कि आज के जो विजिटर्स हैं उनके पास कोई पर्पस ही नहीं है यहाँ आने का. And archaeological significance draws more scholars than casual tourists. Actually, again, there is no indication that scholars outnumber casual tourists. There is no evidence in the passage. इनफैक्ट अगर आप पूरे पैसेज को पढ़ो तो जो कैजुअल विजिटर्स है जैसे किड्स हो गए स्टूडेंट्स हो गए दे हैव बीन emphasized more rather than the scholars, right? So again an opposite point, so the only option that we are left with is option B, which is also our answer. So as you can see today we have again dealt with two types of questions. One was primary purpose, other one was inferential question, right? In the next class, obviously, we are going to take up another important question step. Until then, very happy Raksha Bandhan to all of you, and we'll be seeing each other soon. So thank you for your time. Bye bye.